There it goes. It is live. And I don't think anybody else is going to join me in this hangout. I'm still got the back of the screen. Nah, it looks like alfalfa hair. Sorry about that. That's blinding the camera. I usually have that set up beforehand because there's somebody else in here to talk to me about how my camera is pointing at the back of the thing. Yeah, and you can see the link here. I'm going to actually put that in the chat in case anybody finds out about this and wants to join me. I doubt that because nobody knows about my channel. Nobody knows who I am. Alright, and let's pop that out. Sorry. So I'm starting a little early today, and this is kind of a little out of the norm. Starting next week, my schedule for these streams will be on Fridays. This is the last Tuesday stream setup that I'll be doing like this. But I had to do it this Tuesday because I've been doing it Tuesdays, and this weekend was ridiculous. Like from Friday till yesterday there is so much stuff that happened in that time frame. It's more stuff than has happened the previous probably 2 years of what I've been up to. I've been tweeting about this and that sort of thing. Let me just post that on. It's my Twitter account. Let me check to see if that's showing up as... Do these streams show up on there? Right. Okay, yeah. So it's already broadcasting out that I am streaming at the moment, if anybody's interested. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to try to do these events chronologically if I can remember them correctly. Okay. So chronologically, Thursday night, my brother is doing Uber. So this is not directly related to me. I didn't find out about this particular thing until late in the evening on Sunday. But Thursday night, my brother's driving Uber. He's got a full-time job, but he does Uber in between work and in between going to places and all that sort of thing. So he's picking up some extra money that way. So on the way home from one of his jobs, he's taking a guy to the airport, or he's taking a guy from the airport to a hotel, and the Uber app sends him downtown, and so he doesn't get, it's the wrong Marriott hotel. And then the guy, he says, the guy riding in the car couldn't get my brother on the app again, and so what my brother did, he's like, yeah, we're just going to cut off the app, and I'm just going to drive you there, I'll just drive you there on my own. And so the guy thanked him for that, and then gave him a cash tip and all that sort of thing, and my brother's kind of ecstatic, and like, oh, that was probably the best tip I've gotten so far when doing that. Anyway, so the guy who was riding in the car, that's Mike Cernovich. My brother did Uber for Mike Cernovich. Later Friday night, I am at the Marriott, because there is an event in town, the Phyllis Schlafly Gateway Eagle Council. I guess it's an annual event. I have never heard of this before. I heard about it like Wednesday of last week, I've known about it for maybe a week, and I looked to see online if they still had tickets when I found out about it, and I bought them the last day that they were available, and I'm like, okay, whew, I got my tickets in time, and then I went to the event on Friday, and Friday after I was done with my work and stuff, I went down there. I was able to see, so I was able to, the first guy I saw, so I made it just in time for the Charlie Kirk little event. And so he got up on stage and he started talking for about an hour. Candace Owens was supposed to be there, but she's busy with another project. The details on that project are a little small, but from what he was alluding to, I think it has something to do with Kanye West and the rap community, which is huge for conservatives. That is because Kanye West is a huge influence on the black community, as is Candace Owens. So Candace Owens is is one of the huge leaders in the walk away movement, which is showing Democrats that, showing black people that they don't need to be Democrats, because this has been the black population of the United States is a huge voting bloc for Democrats right now. And if you look at Chicago, you look at Detroit, you look at Atlanta, you look at these areas with a large concentration of black population, they're all run by Democrats, and they are running them into the ground. And the same is even true for parts of St. Louis. There's large black communities, and even around the area where I'm currently living, where Democrats running those cities have led to those cities falling apart. And this is something Dinesh D'Souza was talking about in his film, and something Candace Owens talked. This is something that goes back as far as Malcolm X was talking about this. Malcolm X was calling black people chumps for voting Democrat, because the Democrats were doing the same things, or what he was saying was doing the policies that were hurting the black communities the most. Now, he wasn't saying good things about the Republicans either, but he said, if you're, the way, in the context of the thing, he kept saying, black people are voting Democrats, and you're voting Democrats. Anybody who votes for a party that actively destroys their community is a chump. That's what Malcolm X was saying. Now, if black people was voting for Republicans, and Republicans overwhelmingly were destroying their cities, okay, then he could call them chumps there too. But if you look at areas where there's a lot of black population and it's run by Republicans, the ghettos disappear. The living standards go up. They're not being overtaxed. Their cities aren't being run into the ground. The cops are actively participating in communities, and it's not that black people have this mentality, and this is something somebody tried to argue with me the other day. It's like, no, it's the culture created by democratic policies, and we've got so much historical evidence for this. The cultures created by democratic policies they cripple the black community, because they treat black people as if they are inferior in everything that Democrats do. Oh, you're not good enough to make it on your own, you need affirmative action. Oh, you're not good enough to make it on your own, we need to set the minimum wage that you can earn, so that way you don't earn less than that. Oh, you can't make it on your own, so we'll give you food stamps. Oh, you can't make it on your own, so we'll give you, you didn't get married, you don't have a husband, you don't have a stable family unit, so we'll just throw money at you and raise your kids on WIC programs, and all that stuff is democratic policies, and it is destroying the black community because they are losing their self-reliance, and they've lost. So if you go back through history and you're looking at all this sort of thing, and yeah, I'm going off on huge side tangents here, sorry, but if you go back to, and I have to clarify for all you idiots who aren't listening here, but under Jim Crow, black families were more stable than white families, which is entirely why racists were implementing Jim Crow laws. Now, if black people were naturally more violent, were naturally less stable, were naturally prone to all of these things that people say about them right now, they wouldn't have needed to enact Jim Crow laws in the South to keep black people from prospering. Think about what Jim Crow was all about. Not only was it segregation, but it was black people weren't allowed to hold certain positions, weren't allowed to take pay, because black people were taking jobs from whites, and the people who wanted Jim Crow laws hated that. And why would a black person take a job from a white person? Because they're out-competing them. A lazy person doesn't out-compete somebody. That doesn't make any sense. If the black community on its own was destructive, or if it was something inherent in their race, it's something idiots like Spencer don't look. They're like, oh yeah, I know history. No, you don't consider what's going on here. If the black community was already leading to crime and gangs and drug use and laziness and poverty and all of that sort of thing, they wouldn't have needed to enact Jim Crow, because the black population would have fallen into ghettos and crumbled to what we know them to be now. But black people, after the abolition of slavery, were thriving, and racists hated that. And so they started enacting all of these policies to keep them from thriving. And then that led to the entire segregation, which led to the Civil Rights Act. And then the Civil Rights Act went above and beyond what black people needed. Because the black community, all they needed was to be allowed to do what they wanted to do. Just get out of our way. Stop segregating, stop removing us from positions, stop making demands on us. Just give us the same treatment you would give to everybody else, and the black community would rise up to the occasion and would prosper just like most of the other races in the United States have been able to do. It has nothing to do with slavery, and that's what everybody keeps blaming. That's what the Democrat talking point is, to blame slavery. So, I mean, this is a huge side tangent, but it's important, and all of these policies teach entire generations to be reliant on the government and not to be reliant on themselves, not to think for themselves, not to act for themselves, not to build their own lives, not to grow up and be more than what they are. So all of these things stifle a person. Like, because everybody knows this. Everybody has seen this poor kid who is raised by his mom, where either the dad works way too much and isn't around, but is raised by his mom, and the mom shelters him from everything. Oh no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You'll get dirty. You can't do that. You'll skin yourself. And babies this poor kid, and he grows up to a blah adult who's reliant on everybody. He can't do anything for himself. Is a burden to everyone around him, and it's this whiny little child, this spoiled brat. And this is, Jordan Peterson talks about the devouring mother. That's exactly what this is. The Democrats have done that with an entire group of people based on their race. They have turned this entire group into whiny, spoiled brats because they've babied them, sheltered them, and not allowed them to be individuals growing on their own. So anyway, Candace Owens is a huge influence in that community and getting them to see, oh, the one that I've been leaning to for protection is actually the one that's making me worse off. They are the one punishing me. They are the one destroying my community. And black voters are coming back in mass or waking up in mass, I should say, not coming back, because I don't think a lot of them were born and raised Democrat, and they'll I'll be a Democrat till the day I die, sort of thing. But there's a lot of them that are waking up and being like, whoa, wait, all the stuff that I've been blaming on the cops, all the stuff I've been blaming on white people, all the stuff I've been blaming on this group or that group. No, I'm seeing the opposite side, and I'm seeing that it's the Democratic policies of saying that we can't make it on our own, and we have to be helped, and we have to be sheltered. That's what's killing us. That's what's destroying our communities. That's what's leading to these high crime rates, the gun-free zones. All of these Democratic policies are destroying these communities. And Candace Owens is doing a good job of waking people up, and Kanye West is right there with her, and actually is one of the big proponents of that, because that was the tweet heard around the world, at least at the time, was, I really like the way Candace Owens thinks, and that went viral, and Candace Owens blew up, and Candace Owens is a member of Turning Point, which is Charlie Kirk's group. So Candace Owens wasn't there because she was working on that side project, probably with Kanye West, although details on it are kind of, who knows, it might be a rap album, I don't know, can she sing? I don't know. Maybe she'll just be a background dancer. Anyway, but Charlie Kirk came out there, and he gave an amazing speech for an hour. He was talking about all these, I knew of Charlie Kirk because I knew of Candace Owens, and so I knew a little bit about him. I kind of understood, but I saw some stuff on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy, I thought he was more like an attention-seeking, maybe just looking for publicity and all that sort of thing. And some of the things he says, I'm kind of like, that's kind of stretching it too much. You're kind of, you're milking this for more than it's worth. But after I heard him talk, I'm like, okay, I have the wrong impression of this guy. This guy is actually really good. He is really, really intelligent. He is doing phenomenal at getting the college community to wake up, because what he was talking about is like a lot of the things that he talks about, which are very basic conservative talking points, that college and university students don't even hear. So how can they consider them? How can they even bother to check if they're real? How can they bother to check with what they've been taught, like all of this Marxism nonsense, versus, oh, wait, just graduate from high school. So these are the three talking points, and this is, there's statistical evidence to back this up for decades. So, graduate from high school is number one. Get and keep a job. Doesn't matter what that job is, get and keep a job. And then either don't have kids out of wedlock or don't have kids before you're 21. If you do those three things, you have a 2% chance of being poor. 2%. 98% of people who follow those three things will get out of poverty and will become middle class in the U.S. 98%. People in college don't hear that. Students in college don't hear that, and all they hear is Marxism dogma from their professors. And so this is something, well, later on I heard a lecture from Dr. Duke Pesta, and he was saying in his classroom, he writes 2 words, the first day of class, the first thing he does is he writes 2 words on the classroom wall. He writes liberal and underlines it, and then conservative and underlines it. And he asks the students in his classroom, and he points at liberal, and he says, have you ever heard anything bad about liberal ideology? And the whole class will murmur, and then it comes back as an overwhelming no. And then he points to the conservative side, and he says, has anybody in this class heard anything good about conservatives? And again, people start murmuring, and the response is no. And he says, how is that possible? And even people who are staunch leftists, staunch liberals, they'll be like, no, that's not possible. It's not possible for one to be absolutely good, no flaws, nobody criticizing, absolutely nothing wrong with it, nobody has anything bad to say about liberals, and nobody has anything good to say about conservatives. It's impossible for that to be true. There are people who say, I'm trying to think of a kind of like something that should be an overwhelmingly good thing. Let's say, the Industrial Revolution. I don't know what you guys think about that, anybody who's watching this later. There are people who look at the Industrial Revolution and they say that is a bad thing. And you're like, so you'd rather have us all go back to all working on farms and subsistence living? Because the Industrial Revolution changed all of that, and that's the entire reason I have a computer in front of me. I would be out working 16-hour days in a field prior to the the agricultural revolution and the Industrial Revolution that followed. But without those two events occurring one right after the other, I'd spend all my time working in a field and never get to use my brain, never get to think about things, never get to run my own businesses, never even get to get a proper education. There's a whole ton of things that I wouldn't be able to do because I'm spending all my time and energy harvesting crops. Because that's what the 80 to 90% of the U.S. population were farmers. And that's all they could ever do. Because if they didn't do that, they would die of starvation. Agricultural revolution occurred. Now the work of one guy the work of 10 people is being done by one person. And time goes on, and the Industrial Revolution happens. And now we've got tractors, and we've got combines. And the work that used to be done by 100 people is now done by one guy. And then 1,000 people is now, one guy does the work of what used to be 1,000 people. People criticize that. That is the most amazing thing to happen. And this happened in the last, 150 years? 100 and 150 years, somewhere in that range. And people look at that as an abomination and something that's terrible. And it's like, even something as amazing, overwhelmingly positive as that, people criticize. So it's not possible for leftists to be absolutely good with no criticism, nothing. They don't do anything wrong. They are the pinnacle of everything somebody should be. And for conservatives to be the exact opposite of that, it's like that's impossible. And students in that class realize this. Anyway, so going back to Charlie Kirk, he's talking about this sort of thing. He's like, a lot of the people that I go and I do these lectures at college campuses, and these students come up to me and they're like, I've never heard these things before. And they're like, how do you get to the age of 20-something without hearing any of the argument? These are basic stuff that I hear, on YouTube. And if you will follow any of these conservative people, you're like, something you hear on a weekly basis from all of these conservative conservative pundits and journalists and things like that. These are things you hear so much that you kind of get bored of them. And then but that was kind of a mind-blowing thing. It's like, There's people out there who are in their 20s, mid 20s, early or late teens. They haven't heard any of this stuff because all they've been fed their entire life is government school doctrine, Marxism, patriarchy, white man destroys everything. It's all society, and all my problems are somebody else's fault. I'm not to blame for anything. It's all somebody else, and we got to go attack that other person who's ruining my life. That's the stuff that goes through colleges. And so anyway, Charlie Kirk kind of changed my opinion of him. I'm like, okay, I thought he was a little, I guess everybody is a little like that on Twitter, right? You say things you say things a little more extreme on Twitter than you would when actually talking to a person, when actually giving a lecture. It's because the more extreme gets attention, and then people get to the truth that way. And so this is something I've said about Alex Jones, and this is a good portion of why they shut him down. Is Alex Jones is an extremist. He takes things to an extreme, but he starts with a kernel of truth, and he goes to the extreme, and people look at that extreme and they're like, oh, that's nonsense, and they start investigating like, oh, hey, there's a kernel of truth, and they get to the kernel of truth. But if he had just said the kernel of truth, everybody would have just ignored it. If it's just the truth as it is, people tend to overlook it. And I think maybe that's a problem with my channel, is because I don't know if I go to crazy talk, rambling points. I'm not out here saying, oh, the flat earth is definitely a thing. Granted, that's one of the things that I keep hearing arguments for and against, and they keep flashing in my head, and I'm like, I don't know. It should be something that is, hey, the world is round. There's so many people that believe that. But there's so many things that don't add up with that particular view, and there's a lot of things that they're saying on the other side that make sense, and maybe that's me being gullible, because same thing with evolution. People are like, oh yeah, this is common sense, this is how could you not understand this? And I'm like, but there's fundamental parts of evolution that don't add up, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm starting to see that thread unraveling on the flat earth. I'm like, well, there's things that don't quite add up with your model of how the universe is structured. Maybe my scientific understanding isn't where it should be, but I was right there on the climate change thing. A lot of the things that I talk about and think about, I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't add up. And then I hear people like Alex Epstein saying points that I had already. I'm like, oh, yes, exactly. That's what I thought too. And then I hear other people. I hear Lord Christopher Monckton talking about this, or Vice Count Christopher Monckton talking about this. And there was one of the guys at the convention. I had never heard of him before, but Gregory Wrightstone is his name. So he was at that convention. He's got a book called Inconvenient Facts. That's next on my list of things to read. But he had this slideshow presentation, and he was going through that, and during the middle of his presentation, Antifa comes in and starts chanting nonsense. And okay, he's got lectures, he's got sources, he's got data points, he is pointing out all of this stuff. They come in and they chant, when scientists lie, people die. They did that for 2 minutes, and I'm like, what is chanting ever, what's your point? What do you have? And I'm like, oh, chanting doesn't change anybody's mind. What good does chanting do? Nothing. It just shows that you're an idiot and you don't have anything to back up what you're saying. So you just repeat it, hoping that people will be indoctrinated in what they hear. Anyway, but I got a chance to talk to Gregory Wrightstone afterwards, and I'm saying things, and I brought up some of that, and he's like, yeah, exactly, that's on this book, it's on this page. And I'm like, yeah, so these are conclusions I arrived on my own just looking at the facts and the information, and I'm seeing I'm not alone in this. Other people who do this for a living, they've come to the same conclusions. They've looked at NASA's charts, they've looked at the satellite footage, and they're like, yeah, this point, you add them together, you lead to this conclusion. And so this is a guy who does this sort of thing for a living. He's an accredited scientist. These are the guys that get overlooked, and yeah, and he's got the information on his side, and if he's reaching the same conclusions I do, it makes me wonder. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not so crazy, maybe I'm not gullible, and maybe I do understand science the way I think I do, because other intelligent people are arriving at the same conclusions. And it's not just one. There's this whole host of people that I that I respect and I think are very, very good at researching the facts and presenting the truth, like Steven Crowder and Stefan Monalou. And I have been on the climate change is a hoax side for years, and both of them, I don't know how long Steven Crowder was on that sort of thing, but it was well after I started watching him and listening to him, and well after he quoted one of my tweets on his show, and it was before it was daily. It was well after the fact that he had Patrick Moore on there, and Patrick Moore started talking about this stuff, and I'm like, and Steven Crowder was agreeing with him, and then Stefan Monalou at the same time. He had a video called Why I Changed My Mind About Climate Change. That was years after I started following him, and I'm like, okay, two people I look up to as far as like I respect their ability to investigate. I respect their ability to to try to be as objective as possible, and they oftentimes come to the same conclusions I have. And I'm like, okay, these are people that I've disagreed with stuff on in the past. I'm like, hey, I highly respect you. We disagree on this one area, and I'm starting to see them make those. Okay, Stefan Monalou. Stefan Monalou was also at this event. So Friday night, I got to meet Mike Cernovich. I got to shake his hand, talk to him about his new documentary. He showed the entire documentary as the last part of the day. I got to meet Stefan Monalou. I got to tell him about how he was the reason I became an ANCAP. Because prior to that, I was a libertarian. I was thinking on that lines, and it was his channel. I listened to him on a regular basis, and then I started listening to Tom Woods. But Stefan Monalou was the catalyst, and was one. I don't remember the video exactly, and I'm like, that was the last, the last stitch holding me on to the libertarian before going full ANCAP, and that was my last defense. It was one of his videos, and I'm just like, boom. Oh, that was the only thing keeping me there. Yeah, you're right. I have no argument against what you just said. Yeah, I have no objection to everything you said, and if all of that is true, which I think it is, because I don't see any fault in your line of reasoning, anarcho-capitalism is the only moral government, or the only moral system of society. So that's what we have to steer towards. Now, I've said this repeatedly. I don't know if it's possible, but that's the goal. That should be, okay, here's the point we're trying to reach. We should be doing everything we possibly can to reach that goal. Perfection as a human being is impossible, but we should be doing everything we possibly can to reach ever closer towards perfection. We may never get there, we may not even reach good. But as long as we're heading towards that, as we set that as our trajectory, even if we don't make it all the way, even if we don't even get close, at least we've got our priorities right. And we're going to, over time, as we head more towards the trajectory we should have, life is going to get better. Society is going to get better. We are going to become better as a person. That's what happens when you set your goal as the absolute, it's the absolute morality, absolute good, absolute perfection, absolute in line. Well, this is for personally for me. If you guys don't believe in God, but this is absolutely being in line with God's word and with what God wants from us, being in line with what Jehovah has in store for our lives. So this convention was the first half of the weekend, where I got to meet people that I look up to and respect. Okay, Saturday. So another thing that's going on right now is I run my own business. So I've talked about it a little bit before. So this is in addition to the Fun Fair project that I'm trying to do. This is how I'm trying to generate capital in order to finance Fun Fair, get it off the ground, get it out there, get it for people. I've got this other project that I'm calling Fair Market. So it's kind of Fun Fair and Fair Market. So Fun Fair is the social media stuff. That's the social media and the payment gateway. Fair Market right now is not its own independent thing. But as I build this up and as Fun Fair starts to rise up and become more and more, Fair Market and Fun Fair are gonna combine. And Fair Market is the goals I have for that. So, imagine social media and you're combining that with Amazon, right? So you've got, that would turn Fun Fair into Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, PayPal, plus Amazon all in one system. And so when you go to, like, let's say Philly D, if Philly D ever creates a something on Funfair instead of YouTube, and he, instead of saying, oh, click on the link below, right on the side of his video, he can have this page full of items that you can buy and support him. And so you click on a hat that has his slogan or whatever. You buy that hat, he gets a portion of the proceeds. That hat comes from my warehouse and is shipped to your address. We cut out all these middlemen. You can get a hat for $5, and you know how much Philly D's going to get? He's going to get like $4.50. I'm going to get 10 cents or whatever it is. And then, I mean, we got, I don't know, I got to factor in shipping and all that stuff. So maybe he only gets $3, and then shipping and all that stuff takes another $1.50, and then I get 20 cents of the deal. And you get your hat for $5 that in the current system, because there's so much overhead, there's so many middlemen in between. So Philly D's got to go click the link, and then you go to some other person's website, and then that other person, they take their cut, and then they ship it, and the shipping people take their cut. There's so many stages in between that are adding fees and adding cost into the products that you buy. And so fair market is just going to be straight from our warehouse to your door. And I've got ideas on how I can, like, Amazon makes its big bucks using the postal service, and they've got arrangements with various shipping contractors and stuff like that. If I get my way, I am going to undercut Amazon in ways that nobody's ever expected, because I've got plans on how to handle the shipping stuff. And right now he's, oh, we're using drones, and I'm like, sure, drones are cool, but they're not cost effective, man. They're not cost effective. We've got so many other distribution methods in the United States as it is, and ones that he hasn't even thought of yet. And that's what I'm like, okay, as soon as I get this going and off the ground, as soon as this becomes big enough, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to tap into things that I already know about, and I'm not going to talk about them on here because I don't want to give away my whole game plan here. But I can undercut Amazon on their shipping fees alone. Like, for right now, it's like, oh, you'll see items like, oh, yeah, that's $1.50 per shipping, and oh, that's $2 for shipping, that's $5 for shipping. Sometimes the shipping is free, which means it's included in the price. Because I've seen that. I've seen this guy's advertising something for $7. Actually, I've not just seen that. I've sold stuff like that. Two different vendors selling the same product. One is selling it for $7 plus $3 in shipping, and the other guy is selling it for $9.99. But it's shipping's included. Wait a minute. You're selling it for a penny less. You're including the shipping in that. The shipping is still being paid for by the customer. You just say it's free shipping. And, yeah. Anyway, but those same items, if I have my way and if I'm correct on this, which I believe I am, instead of charging $3 for that shipping, I can charge 30 cents. Probably even less. Maybe something closer to 10 cents for that same item to get it to your door, because I'm not planning on using UPS. I'm not planning on using postal service. I'm not planning on using all of the... That's old school. That's the old way of doing things. Those systems have been like the postal service, the Pony Express. I mean, those are, sure, they use cars instead of horses, but it's outdated, man. It is a very inefficient system to get packages to you. And capitalism is all about removing inefficiencies, doing things with the best of our abilities. Looking at something and you're like, well, that's not right. You guys are wasting a whole lot of effort. You guys are working harder, not smarter. And that's something that they kept chanting to me in the Air Force, and it's true. I mean, like, work harder or work smarter, not harder, right? And one of the projects I did. So this is, man, I only wanted to come on here for like half an hour, and this has already gone on a little bit longer than planned. But so one of the things I did in the Air Force is we had this weekly report that we were supposed to do. So I wasn't in charge of doing this. It was somebody else in the office. And this guy, I mean, he's a smart guy. He just wasn't a computer programmer, so he didn't know how to do what I knew how to do. So he goes on vacation for 2 weeks, and so then it becomes my responsibility to do this report. So he takes me aside for a day, shows me how to do these reports, and as he's showing me how to do it, I'm like, so you've been doing this 2 times a week for how long have you been here? Like a year and a half? And he's like, yeah, this is some. And I'm like, you're spending over an hour to generate this report. And I'm like, all of the information you already have, it's already in the system. I can turn this into a report that takes 10 minutes to do instead of an hour and a half. And he said, wait, what? Yeah, so he's looking at me like I'm kind of out of my mind or whatever. So anyway, because what they were doing is they were printing up, what was it, I think originally it was either 10 or 12 different reports. So they'd print up 12 different reports for various things, and then they would copy pieces of it and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and that would kind of, well, sometimes it was adding 2 different numbers together, or sometimes it was, divided. So there's a huge spreadsheet built to manipulate all these numbers, and there was a lot of times where you had to copy numbers from the report, paste it into this Excel spreadsheet. It was a huge Excel spreadsheet. I mean, talking like, because once you get past the A through Z, then it starts going into double A's. So I think the amount of stuff that you had to enter, I mean, and it's also going down. So we were in the hundreds and stuff going down, and we were in the double digits going left and right of stuff you had to copy and paste over to generate the results that you're looking to print out in a report. And I'm like, you're pulling all this information from a database. All of this information is already in the database. That's why it's printing it out on the report. Because it's there. All of these calculations that you're doing in the Excel spreadsheet, you could program into your reports, man. If A is always going to be added to B, and it's always going to equal, and you're looking for C, why do you print out A and B, copy and paste, or I guess generate the reports? Like, these are PDF, not printed on paper. But anyway, why do you report A and B and then copy and paste to get C? And you do this. This is a huge spreadsheet, and you got to do this manually, like copy, even with copy paste, even with Control C, Control V. This still, even if you're going as fast as humanly possible, because there's so much you're dealing with, to generate it into, or to turn it into the Excel spreadsheet, you're going to spend at least half an hour to 45 minutes. Not only that, but also to generate each individual report, because each report has to be over a specific set of days, and so you got to go in and, so generating the reports and then copying and pasting that process by itself took about an hour. And then once you get the results from that, you copy the results from that into a PowerPoint slide, and that takes about, depending on what's going on. I mean, because sometimes the PowerPoint is goofy, and you copy and paste something, and your whole page gets moved around, and you're like, and then you got to fix everything because it doesn't. Pressing Control Z for some reason doesn't reset it to before the mistake. Anyway, so it could take anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And I know this is a long derivative, but there is a point. Trust me on this. Anyway, so I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, if I could just generate the reports, that's probably going to take, once I get the reports, everything they need to do, so that they're presenting the information in the order that we need it, with the exact totals we need. All you have to do is generate this report, copy from the report, not to Excel spreadsheet nonsense, just copy straight from there to the PowerPoint. Instead of doing multiple steps, making all these manipulations, it's like, dude, I turn it into a process where all I have to do is, not only was it not 12 reports anymore, that you had to run with multiple factors in there, no, I dropped it down to, I think by the time I was done, it was 5 reports. There was 2 reports that were run on because there's 2 different meetings, and the 2 different meetings had different PowerPoint presentations and needed the similar information posted in different ways. So I think one was on Tuesday and the other one was on Friday, or something along those lines. So one of the reports required two reports, because it was day shift and night shift sort of thing. So you run 2 different reports based to get those metrics, and then the other report required 3, because I think they broke it down to day shift, night shift, day shift, night shift, and mid shift. Yeah, so it was 3 different groups, and so they needed those numbers presented that way. Oh no, sorry, that was so. One of the reports was weekdays and weekends. Yeah, that was it. So weekdays, weekends, and the other reports had to be the breakdown of day shift, night shift, and mid shift. So there's 3 separate reports that needed to be run. Anyway, couldn't get those all run in the same report because it's pulling from different That's it. Yeah. So I tried to condense it down to 2 reports. The system wouldn't let me. But anyway, I reduced it from 12 to 5. So not only is it less information, I got to enter manually to get the report to generate the dates that I need and all that sort of thing. So, but it now prints out in the order that I expect it to see when I'm doing the PowerPoint presentation. And so the dude, instead of taking an hour and a half to copulate it's all busy work nonsense, I turned that process to less than half an hour. And more often than not, I could do the same report that used to take about an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes or so. I could do that in under 20 minutes because of what I had done to streamline the process. So that's what I do for a living. That's what I do. I've been doing, almost my entire life as I look for something and I'm like, wait, that's not right. That's inefficient. I know a better way because... I don't know if this is the way my brain works or whatever. I see these things that are disconnected, and I'm like, well, those 2 things should be connected. There's no reason for them to... why hasn't anybody else thought of this? That's the entirety of Funfair. I'm like, these systems already exist. Like, everything that I'm doing is taking a piece from this and a piece from that and a piece from that and merging it all together into one homogeneous system, one architecture, and I'm like, why hasn't anybody else done this? All of these individual components exist. Everybody knows the benefit of these individual components. Well, maybe not everybody, but there's a ton of people out there who know about these things. Why has nobody ever thought to put them together? And it's like, I guess it's like the guy who it's like, oh, chocolate plus peanut butter. That's a good combination. And like, wait, why didn't anybody else think of chocolate plus peanut butter? This guy's a genius. Oh, by the way, chocolate and peanut butter is good. Peanut butter and caramel is fantastic. And I don't know why that is not a candy or something. Like, that is... I discovered that by accident, but... I don't know... Yeah. Just try it. Take it. It doesn't look appetizing, but take a scoop of peanut butter and a little caramel, something that's malleable or whatever. Mix the 2 together. It is fantastic. Yeah. I haven't seen any caramel plus peanut butter things like candies or treats or any. If you ever do, they stole my idea. No. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like. Oh, these 2 things, these are good on their own, but when they combine, there is a synergy at play that's beyond the parts themselves. And that's what I'm seeing with Funfair So not only is it like, oh, hey, I've got a social media platform that now has a funding mechanics built into it. I now have a reward system that rewards people for participating in social media. Oh, by the way, I now have a mechanism because of the distributed ledgers I'm using. I can start using that that's the theoretical part. That's the part that I've been working on for a while that I'm not... It makes sense on paper. I don't know enough about either to make sure that they absolutely work, and I've tried talking to people, and every time I bring it up, I guess it's over their head, or they're just like, oh, no, that's not... And I'm like, they tell me it's not going to work, and I haven't heard anybody explain why. But the way I'm seeing it, because, okay, so I guess I could explain. So peer-to-peer networking, right? That's... Everybody is somewhat familiar with that, and if they aren't, all I have to do is mention Napster. Napster made peer-to-peer networking famous. Napster, LimeWire, Kazaa, Pirates Bay, all of those were peer-to-peer networks. They're good. They're really good at spreading information. Oh, hey, Josh. Hey, Josso.
Sorry if you don't want me here.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I just liked the discussion you were having, so I joined.
Yeah, so I'm talking about my amazing weekend. I haven't even gotten to the best part yet because I've been talking about all these side tangents, but... Okay, so talking about Funfair, mixing these separate systems into one thing that hasn't been done before. So stage 1 of Funfair is just payment system, way of rewarding users, way of rewarding not only content creators, but people who are just actively on the site, a way of reducing costs across the board. But the other thing that I realized as I started developing this is I am fairly certain I stumbled upon a way to have a distributed database for all the YouTube videos, which means, or it's not YouTube, but all the videos that people upload to my site. I'm fairly certain with my system it can be cloud computing. It's so what this means is, like again, I said I'm not quite certain on this, but what I'm planning on doing once I get, and so this is the funding, extra funding I'm trying to build up and all that sort of thing, is I'm planning on paying people, like users on, like say you sign up for a Funfair account, and then you sign up for this extra, like, hey, I am asking for 1 gigabyte worth of your hard drive. And then you're like, okay. And then you get paid $5 a month for me to access 1 gigabyte of your hard drive. And I would use that as storage space for video and for social media content. And imagine, and it's like, okay, it's an extra way to earn money. I wasn't using that extra gigabyte. But every user on the network giving me a gigabyte of their data, I've got a cloud computing system right there. And the mechanics of my distributed ledger, I am fairly certain, can track and manage where all this data is going. Because sometimes somebody will upload a video that's 2 gigs. Well, if I'm only getting 1 gig from each user, that means half the video is going to be on your computer, half's going to be on my computer, and then whatever's left over is going to be on somebody else's computer. But the distributed ledger, because it's tracking all the money, right? All the money that flows through the system, it's keeping a log of everything that has ever happened in the system. Well, then it knows exactly where it stored each section of video. So everybody on my network, my distributed ledger will also track, hey, this guy uploaded this video and right now it's being stored on this guy's computer, that guy's computer, and that guy's computer. And so then when you go to stream it, it's going to be like, okay, you're streaming this? Okay, I need to link your computer with that guy's computer and then get that stream. And so that sets up the stream, and it'll download onto your computer until you get the full gig, and then now there's 2 copies that are on the network. And it's like, okay, if somebody else is looking for this video, hey, there's a copy there and there's a copy there. Well, this guy's already in use and streaming with somebody else. This guy's not connected to anybody. I'll just go to this guy and I'll start streaming from there, and we'll just copy it and we'll just go around. And I've got this huge interconnected, that's the thing, is peer-to-peer was the first stage of distributed ledgers. Distributed ledgers are secure, unchangeable peer-to-peer networks. So a big problem with Napster and all that sort of thing is someone could upload something and pretend it's something else. Like, you could upload a Metallica song and then add a virus on there and like, hey, look, it's a Metallica song. And then somebody goes and downloads a Metallica song and they get Metallica and they get something else. With a distributed ledger, that's not possible. Because if I upload a Metallica song and you upload a Metallica song, those two are going to be exactly identical. And the system can compare those two and be like, wait a minute, your upload is different from yours. No, one of you guys is lying about what you uploaded. The other thing is, once you get a clean copy of that Metallica song, I'm using Metallica because that was the big Napster thing. Anyway, so your version of the Metallica song is uploaded, and the network's agreed. It's like, yeah, that's a valid one, doesn't have any viruses, that one is shared around the network, and every person who downloads or streams that Metallica song, they get the exact copy because because everything is cryptographically what's that word? Hashed, right? So that Metallica song it generates a series of ones and zeros and all that sort of thing, and then that goes through a process to turn it into undiscernible stuff. But the undiscernible stuff is going to match exactly with your version of Metallica upload, and so like, hey, these two are equal to each other, so this is the same thing. And so then once it gets on the network, and once we have a valid copy, and that's the one that gets shared around, no one else can ever say, oh, I've got Metallica, and then try to sneak a virus in there, because everybody else in the network is like, wait a minute, you liar, that doesn't match our copies, what are you trying to pull here? That's exactly what Bitcoin allows, because somebody can't put a counterfeit coin in there and say, like, hey guys, I found this coin on my wallet, and everybody's like, no you didn't, you liar, that doesn't match all of our records. And that would be the same thing with videos.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so it's like you upload, like say you upload one of your videos, and somebody else downloads that, and then the third person's like, oh nope, that's my video, and like everybody else on the who's participating is like, no, I got it from this guy. This guy originated it. You can't claim to have originated it. He's the source. And everybody on the network is like, yeah, I got the same information. My computer's telling me that that this guy got it from that guy, and that guy's the originator. You can't come in here and claim that completely. So this is why it's distributed ledgers are using for smart contracts, because this completely eliminates copyright. Because anything you download, like say that Metallica song, right? You download that Metallica song from my network. Well, it's that whole process is tracked by the network, and it's like, you didn't originate this song. This song came from those guys. Those guys started it. Those guys originally created it, and they get credit because it's the entire network remembers this guy created it, you copied it, it went to you, and then you put it in your video. The network tracks all that entire process, so you can't claim to be the original owner of something that you know you copied from somewhere else, because the network can identify that. It's
Right.
so because it's like, okay, I saw the network go from you to you to you, and it's not just me as the owner of Funfair saying, no, this guy's lying because I saw him steal it from that guy and that guy took it from that guy. It's not me saying that. It's every participant on the network has the same information. So it's that's the beauty of this, and I'm like, I was looking at it at first as like, I can reduce my cost by having the monetary process be extremely cheap on my end to run all of that, and you can send money back and forth, and it's going to be very little cost and little overhead on my end. And then I was like, as I was looking at this, I'm like, you're telling me I don't even have to pay for storage space to store, because Amazon and Google have entire buildings like football fields long, stacked from floor to ceiling with computers. That's where your YouTube videos are being stored. They're in some warehouse in Texas or some warehouse in Arizona. Some huge warehouse just stacked to the rafters with computers. With my network, I can compete with those guys without buying anything.
That's smart.
Yeah, like they spend millions on hardware. Millions a month on hardware and keeping the hardware cold. If I pay you $5 a month to use your computer, okay, I'll take it. And I'm still
I mean, I have a bunch of storage that I don't need.
yeah, a lot. I mean, I've got terabytes of hardware for regular computers. It's like what, $1 per terabyte or something like that. And lots of people have like 30 extra, gigabytes or whatever. With my system, I could offer people money just for like, hey, just give me this much storage space, block it off on your computer. It's no longer yours. You're renting. I'm renting it from you. You could earn money just by doing that. You don't even have to participate in the social media site. You don't have to post videos. You could just earn money every month by just letting me rent out your hard drive space.
Yeah, it sounds like the website's going to be pretty good as soon as it launched.
Okay. Yeah, that brings me to the best news of the weekend. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened this weekend. And there was Antifa protesters at the thing I was with downtown. Let's see, I forgot where I was in the series of. I was trying to do it chronologically, and I kind of got sidetracked talking about other stuff because I was talking about what I do is I see two things and I link them together. And like, why hasn't anybody linked this together before? Yeah, so I got to hear General Flynn speak at the dinner. That was Friday night. So Friday I saw Charlie Kirk, and then I was at the dinner. We had a dinner, and I heard General Flynn speak at that. He got an award at this event. After that, I met Mike Cernovich and Stefan Monalou. I got to watch Hoaxed, and Stefan Monalou was in that. I got to introduce myself to both of them, got to get acquainted with them. Saturday, there was Antifa protesters being idiots. I don't know if anybody saw that. I was on Twitter. I'm a really bad cameraman. I really need a steady cam and some other stuff. I tried. I was talking a little too much with my hands while I was holding the camera, so sometimes the camera's pointing at the guy I'm talking to, and sometimes it kind of veers off to the side and starts moving around. But I talked to, there was like 15 protesters there. Some of them were masked, some of them weren't, but for the most part, they didn't know what they were there to protest. Like out of the
If you're gonna protest, at least know what you're talking about.
or at least be willing to say what you're protesting for. Two of them were telling me that they were protesting beer, and I'm like, that's not what you're here to protest. You can say you're here to protesting beer. What? The reason you protest is to spread your message. Your message is not anti-beer. Your message is you're against those. Why would you get a protest?
Also, I'm glad you pointed out that I didn't know what net positive was, because like I got it confused. So.
Yes.
That's what.
Yeah. So, like, if you made $1 million, right? That would be like if somebody paid you $1 million, you could consider that a gross positive. But in order for somebody to pay you $1 million, you had to buy $105 million or $1.5 million worth of stuff to sell them, right? If you spent $1.5 million and I made $1 million, it's like, but you spent $1.5 million, your net is negative $0.5 million. So people look at that, I made $1 million, and you're like, are you forgetting about yesterday when you spent $1.5 million? So people, I mean, granted, I'm using exaggerated numbers, but people do that all the time. People will spend $1.50 to make $1, and I'm like, people are like, oh, I'm driving downtown for a good deal on gas, and I'm like, you're driving 30 minutes to save $5. You spent more money than you saved.
Yeah.
You spent more on gas driving to a gas station further. Yeah, so it.
I plan on getting a job this month, and I'm gonna do a retirement fund saving. I was kind of inspired by you with that.
Oh yeah.
Save up money,
So I know you're probably not going to make very much money at your first job. Get yourself a Roth IRA. You have to make sure it's Roth, not a regular IRA. You're too young for a regular IRA. A Roth is going to do you a lot more good, because the younger you start a Roth, the better it is. If you've got money to fund both, do both, but I wouldn't start a regular IRA until you max out your Roth contribution. That was the advice that was given to me. But the sooner you start that, $25 a month is all you need. $25 a month, just every month, until you retire.
All right, that seems good.
It's. I've seen so many people put like $50 a month into a regular savings account, and I'm just groaning. I'm like, savings account earns what, 3% a year, if that. A savings account does not keep up with inflation. A Roth IRA, and it's got to be in a mutual fund. So that way you can well, it's not a guarantee. There's a chance that you could lose money, but more than likely you're going to keep making money over time. And it's something called compound interest. And if you look at compound interest, it's exponential growth. It starts off, if you're only putting 25 in and 25 in and 25 in, you start to see this little small increase in growth. It's like, oh, this month you made $2. This month you made $2.10. This month you made $2.12. It's slow, but eventually you're putting $25 a month, and eventually, because it reaches that point with I just said the word, now it's drawing a blank on it. With compound interest, eventually you get to the point where you're putting $25 a month in, like out of your own money, and the interest earned alone on what you have in your account is $25.50. And then the next month it's $26, and then the next month it's $27, and then the next month it's $30, and then the next month it just starts increasing, and eventually you get to the point where you used to be earning $2 on interest, and now you're earning $200 on interest. So it adds up really, really quickly. And if you're doing this for 30 years, it's not a guarantee. It's not set in stone. There's a whole bunch of factors because you are dealing with the stock market. But statistically, if you start when you're in your 20s or in your 18, I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but
19.
oh yeah, 19, dude, that's perfect. So you start investing at age 19, $25 a month. If you start investing $25 a month from now until the time you're 30, and then you just forget it and you don't do anything with it, statistically speaking, you should have over $1 million in your retirement account for spending on 11 years. Now, if you waited till you were 30 and spent 11 years, well, let's just say 10 years, let's say 20 to 30 to make it even. So if you went from 30 to 40, same principle of $25 a month from 30 to 40, by the time you go to retire, you'd be lucky to have 100,000 in that account.
Yeah.
That is the impact of compound interest. You're like, oh, it's only 10 years later, right? It's only that 10 years later could be the difference between having $1 million and having less than 100,000.
Yeah.
Because the longer it goes, the bigger it gets, and the more it earns. It's a snowball, right? A snowball rolling down the hill. It starts off small, and every time it rolls, it gets more and more snow. So when it's first rolls, when it first rolls, it gets a little bit of snow, and then it gets bigger, and then it starts getting more snow. Actually, what's the other one? What was that game? Where the guys start. Katamari Damacy, right? Where you start off and you're rolling up little dogs and trees, and then the ball just keeps getting bigger, and eventually you're rolling up buildings, and then you're rolling up the entire planet, and then solar systems, and it's the same idea.
I think I might have played it for the Nintendo.
Oh.
Was it on Nintendo, or was it a different?
I think that was around the time of the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64.
I
It might
think
have been
out
the PlayStation
this-
2.
no.
Yeah, I can't remember what generation exactly, but it was around that time frame. But maybe PS3. But I just know it was a really weird game. But the principle at play there is exponential growth, and that's exactly what compound interest is. Compound interest is exponential growth. So if you're 19 right now and you start, even if you make a whole bunch of bad decisions later on in life, as long as you do that, that's at least one thing that is very sound advice. $25 a month is what? $300 a year, right? Am I doing math right there?
$300 a year. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, like, I doubt my paycheck will be just under $25. So, like,
yeah, so
like, even though it's a fast food restaurant, like, I think they'll pay me at least 100, maybe, or
yeah,
70.
So 300 a year may sound like a lot, but 25 a month is not that much. But it's that 300 a year, 300 times, so 300 a year times 10 years, you're looking at spending $3,000 on your retirement. And provided you put it into a mutual fund that is earning 5 to 10%, which most mutual funds do. There's the American funds that Dave Ramsey likes to advertise a lot.
Oh, yeah, I was just watching that show, actually.
Yeah, those average 10 to 12%. Those are, so if you get a Roth IRA in those, some years they get 8%, some years they get 7%. Anyway, well, I gotta go back a little bit. Inflation, like the rate of inflation, is 3 to 4%. If you put your money into a savings account that's getting a 0.5%, 2%, if you're earning less than 4%, you are losing money every year. So that's why the American funds, if you can get 10 to 12%, or let's say 8 to 12% in an American fund Roth IRA, you're beating inflation already, which is good. And that compound interest at that rate, it's so $300 per year times 10 years, $3,000 spent total due to compound interest and that money circulating over time and building on itself, building and building and building. Even if you stop at the age of 30, you're going to have a significant retirement account. That's just how it works.
I like the Dave Ramsey show because he does information, but What do you think of him? You think
I
he's
think,
okay?
yeah. So I think
I mean,
he's
sometimes
really,
he
yeah. So I
sometimes
disagree with him on a certain aspects because Dave Ramsey, his model is pay down your debt and then start investing in your future. It's very sound advice. It is biblically based. It is very sound, and I would say for 90 to 95% of the population, that is the exact advice they need. For me, that does not work because I'm an entrepreneur. I make money by going into debt. So if I took the time to pay down all of my debt, I would have missed out on this opportunity out in the. So I don't know if you saw the Twitter because I don't know if you
I
following
follow
me.
you. Yeah, I
So
follow you.
oh well, I think it was in I think it did it in the private chat. It's not something I want to advertise on main Twitter, but I'll talk about it here because I'm not going to give you the full scope of what happened. But so I'm going to give you the dollar amount, but not going to show what's so. Over this weekend, I was prepared to purchase a lot of stuff because I found the deal kind of like a maybe not a deal of a lifetime, but a deal that's better than any other deal I've gotten so far in my business. And I was like, okay, this is a major event. I'm willing to go into debt. I was gonna put max out my credit cards to buy inventory because everything is so cheap I can make my money back. Anyway, I'm not gonna go into the full details of everything that happened. What happened? But I ended up paying zero
Sorry
dollars.
for that.
Yeah, I paid. I was prepared to pay up to $1,700 for inventory. I paid zero, and in my living room, it's hard to say because there's a lot of estimations going on, but $15,000 to $20,000 worth of stuff that I got for this. Um, and those are the types of things. So this opportunity that came across was it was out of the blue. I was not expecting it. It's a little unheard of me, unheard of for me. But I spend days and hours looking for opportunities and saving up for when those opportunities and building up methods of going into debt because I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into debt for a little bit, and then because of my business investment, yeah, that debt is bad and it ties up all of my capital. And now I've got to. So I don't know if you've been listening to me. So on my streams, I've been talking about. I've been working Uber. I've been working at warehouses. I've been doing odd jobs to make money. And it's not because I'm broke or anything. It's because all of my money is tied up in investments. It's tied up where I can't touch it because it's something that's going to pay itself off down the road. It's in my IRAs. It's in my businesses. It's in my software. I like I said, I dumped $10,000 into my software. You know how much I've seen back of that? Zero. I don't even have the full software yet. They're still giving it to me in pieces. They're still working on it. $10,000. I'm not going to see that money back for probably years down the road. So the Dave Ramsey model would be like, no, don't invest the $10,000. Instead, he would have had me pay off my credit card with that $10,000, or he would have, if I was following the Dave Ramsey model, I would be paying down debt, and I've got a lot of debt between the school debt, other credit cards debt. I probably have $40,000 worth of debt, but with what I have invested, yeah. So I could have taken that $10,000. I could have knocked a chunk out of my debt. Okay, and then I'd only have $30,000 worth of debt, and I'd be paying that down and paying that down. But if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, if you are investing in businesses, if you are willing to take those risks and to go into debt, it makes so much more sense because you could make money like so some of my credit cards are 12%, right? So if I spent $10,000 and I paid off a credit card that was 12%, it's the equivalent of me making 12% on that $10,000 investment, right?
I think so.
It's a guaranteed savings because so let's see. It's probably more than that, but let's just do some general math. So if I have 10,000, just using round numbers and then I had to add 12%. So that would have cost me an extra 1,200 to keep that for another year to earn that 12%. So I could pay that down and I would save myself 1,200 that I wouldn't have to pay in interest. However, what I have out in the living room there is 500% of what I was prepared to pay. I ended up not paying anything because I made a deal with the manager of this particular establishment, and so I'm going to have to pay money. I didn't pay anything the other day. I'm going to have to pay the amount that I was willing to pay for something else. But that was part of the arrangement, is I got all this for free, and then I'm going to go and help him out in his other businesses. So I'm going to spend my money in other places. That was the arrangement, which means I'm going to have to spend money, but out there, I'm counting it all out, and I'm like, that's a 500% increase. So same, I'm not going to, so if I take that 10,000, this is not what I was prepared to spend. I was not prepared to spend 10,000 out there. I spent 10,000 on Funfair because I think Funfair has the same kind of rate of return. But let's say, instead of adding 12%, no, that's not what I want. Yeah. So, with the Dave Ramsey model, if you had $10,000, you would pay off a $10,000 credit card, save yourself 12%, save yourself $1,100 or $1,200. That would be the equivalent, right? Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny earned. You would have earned the equivalent of $1,200 that you wouldn't have to pay. Now imagine you take that $10,000 and you find an opportunity like what I found the other day. And I'm not, I got to take the time out here and say, what happened the other day was not something that I had done. It was not something that I was planning on doing. I was planning on going to the Marriott and seeing more conservative speakers talk. I was planning on seeing a Steve Bannon documentary and stuff like that. But I had an opportunity that came out of nowhere, and I had the means to. So this is actually from. Let's see, I think this is from How to Win Friends and Influence People, but it might be from Think and Grow Rich. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and I was prepared, and I had an opportunity come to my doorstep, like literally to my doorstep. And it was because I was prepared for it and the opportunity came by. That's why I was able to get what I have right now. And it's not me. It's not something I do that is special. And the series of events that led to what happened to me over the weekend, I'm not sure if you, because you said you've changed your mind about God, but I see the hand of God in what happened to me. I see Jehovah because 2 months ago, I was planning on staying in Washington for another year, and then my job disappears, and so now, okay, what do I do now? It looks like I'm going to St. Louis. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, what I meant by that is I believe in God, but I don't know if there's an afterlife or something like that.
Oh.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I changed my opinion, because I believe there was a God, and maybe there was. I was more like there's most likely, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I believe that there's some sort of system, because it seems like everything is like in like you said, like in a way, like it seems like a system.
Yes.
Or something.
And my faith has been, I have never been so sure in my life as I am right now. And maybe that'll change down the road but 2 months ago I was planning on staying in Washington and doing a lot of things there. I had a lot of plans. I had a lot of things going outside of that. And then job ends, and I'm like, okay, all the stuff that I was going to do on top of that, I can't do that without a day job to help me make ends meet. I can't do the extra stuff that I do on weekends and nights if I don't have a steady job to help me make ends meet. You need a stable platform, something that's reliable to pay your basic needs. And then your extra stuff, that's what you use for your investments. That's what you use for your... So that I agree with Dave Ramsey on. But if I lost my stable foundation, and I was like, well, I'm not going to spend money on extra stuff and on that and that. I can't do my investments because I just lost my stability. So I came to St. Louis because that's where I had the opportunity. So I came to St. Louis, and I'm like, okay, St. Louis, now I need that stability again. I've been looking for that stability. I've been making ends meet by doing various things. And then last week I found a stability. I'm like, okay, I've got the stability. I can start doing my extra stuff. I can start investing again. I can start. And over the weekend, I got this opportunity. I'm like, okay, I've got the stability. I've got the time to spend extra. I got that opportunity, and so there's so many things that all lined up within a matter of days. So I got my steady job last week. I sold something that gave me the capital I needed to start investing in my business again. My brother also made a deposit into our business account, so I had more capital to deal with than I had previously had to deal with. And so I was like, okay, I've got money and I'm looking for products to spend. I was going to wait till Monday to do anything with it because I was going to the conference. And so I was going to, I'll start getting back to business on Monday. And I was thinking at the conference, I'm meeting all these, big conservative figures. I was going to, try to network and all that sort of thing. Because, there's not just the main conservative figures like Cernovich and Monalou and Kirk and Flynn and Bannon, so all those people. But there's also people there just in attendance, like me, who are also conservative-minded, and I ended up meeting a lot of people. I got several business cards. This guy is, because they saw me out there talking to Antifa, and so there's a lot of people like, hey, young man, I'd like to talk to you and, pick your brain. And so I got guys from Boeing talking, I don't know how, I think they just work at Boeing, but they're trying to get me job opportunities there and stuff. So I'm starting to see all these things line up, and I was going to go spend the rest of my weekend there. The opportunity that came to my door was an old family friend looking for my brother. He starts talking about this clearance thing that's going on in a business near me. I go down there to try to find inventory for my business. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll go and spend a couple hours there, and then I'll go to the convention like I originally planned. I ended up being there for more than 12 hours, and I walked out of the store empty-handed the first day. Because they had made me like, yeah, come back tomorrow. We'll sort it all out then. We know what you're looking for and you want to buy everything in the store, or at least as much as you can. We'll talk to our manager tomorrow. He'll be in. I go in the next morning, and the guy tells me, yeah, so the entire store is yours. You're not going to spend a dime today. The people are at the cash register. They have to ring up some stuff, but they're going to be ringing everything up as a penny. They're going to be ringing stuff up for a couple of hours. Just everything that you see on the shelf, just load it up into carts and bins and take it with you. And he said, just the promise is that the money you were planning on spending here today, you're going to go to my other stores and you're going to go help those out. So that way, because he's trying to avoid clearances, he's trying to avoid all of his other businesses failing. And so if I'm going there to buy his products, that saves him money. So he's trying to save his businesses, and he's like, okay, I don't need the money here. This store is already dead. There's nothing I can do here, and even though that's a lot of inventory out there, from his perspective, it was going to cost him more to keep and to move to different stores than it was to just get rid of it. So, from his perspective, well, it's not only is it a tax write-off, and so he's more likely to make more money on tax write-off, saying, yeah, all this inventory I couldn't make any money off of. So for his bottom line, it kind of makes sense. But it would cost him gas money, renting trucks, getting employees, doing inventory by scanning every item that they still had available, loading it up in the trucks, driving it across town to their other stores, coming back, making multiple trips, spending the entire day. He was likely to lose, 20, 30,000 or 10, 15,000 trying to transport this stuff around. And it's like, oh, I lost 15,000 to save $20,000 worth of stuff. The other thing is this particular chain store. I'm not going to mention a name. I don't want to. So that, yeah, I'm trying to. Hopefully, I haven't said anything too revealing on that. Anyway, these particular chains of stores, they sell items already at a discount because that's where they get their business. People go to those stores because they can buy at the store cheaper than they can anywhere else. But I have ways of selling, so stuff that they were selling for $5, I looking through my system, I can sell that same item for $12. And I'm like, at their store, they couldn't charge more than $5 for it. I can charge more, and I can also spend less because they gave it to me for free. So maybe for them, what I'm seeing is about 15 to 20,000. For them, they're probably looking at $8,000 worth of stuff, and they're like, we're gonna spend more money on employees, on man hours, on power, on gas, on transportation. We're going to be spending more money on doing all of that than it's worth to keep the stuff we have in the store. So that's why they're willing to give it away. Because I've been trying to rack my brain at how that. I was like, why would he do that? I was willing to pay him a couple. Yeah, I was willing to pay him up to $1,000, and he's just like, no, you got it for free. And I'm like, okay, because like I said, that store was dead. There's no reviving it. But his other stores still have hope. So he's like, okay, if I go and make my quotas at these other stores, I don't have to lose my businesses. So that's what he's hoping on, which I'm definitely gonna help him out with. Since this, I was like, yeah, I was gonna pay the money anyway, and now I don't have to pay the money. Yeah, and you're offering me more stuff for the same amount of money. All right, deal. Anyway,
yeah.
So that was. I don't know if it's an opportunity of the lifetime. The guy who I was talking to, who introduced me to the opportunity, he says those sorts of things do happen, not to this extent, but those sorts of things happen all the time. I mean, recently Toys R Us went out of business, right? They liquidated, they went out of business completely, got rid of their stores. That's even if Toys R Us couldn't sell them, there were people going through there buying toys for $1 a piece, 50 cents each, and then turning around on Facebook and selling them for $5. And Toys R Us can't do that because Toys R Us has too much overhead. So I'm in a position where my overhead is next to nothing. I'm one guy. I've got computers. I've got a network of people that I work with. As far as getting selling stuff online, I've got a whole bunch of people I can talk to sell the stuff off. But Toys R Us doesn't have that. All Toys R Us has is their online store and then their physical store. And they've got cashiers, and they've got employees, and they've got power bills, they've got water bills, they've got security guards to pay for, they've got trucks to pay to ship the stuff back and forth. They have way too many expenses that they got to take care of. I don't. So
yeah,
that's why, I mean, what is maybe $20,000 worth of stuff for me? For them, they're like, ugh, dude, that's going to cost us more than it's worth. So if this guy's willing to take it all out for free, that saves us money because we don't have to pay our employees to empty the shelves and clear the store. We don't have to pay our employees to inventory all the stuff. He's going to inventory the stuff. We don't have to pay for it. So there's... Oh, so the other thing is, so since this guy knows my name, has my contact information, he said, if I have to do this at another store, I'm going to call you first. You get first dibs at my next, and I'm like, okay. Because
sorry about that. My camera.
Oh
just
no, that's fine. Because what I have right now is the last day of it, which means people had already been through and already taken things and dumping. I mean, when I was going through the line, there was people with carts stacked taller than they were, full of stuff. If I could get in before that crowd and just start going, like, okay, I can make money on this and just start loading up my cart, I can make money on that, I can make money. The next time, it's going to be even bigger. And also, my starting capital for this was, like I said, under $2,000. My starting capital for what I could spend and what I was willing to purchase as far as inventory. Once I start liquidating this stuff, I've got 10 times that amount, right? I mean, maybe not right away, but eventually I'll have 10 times the amount that I was willing to spend this time, and plus whatever I end up buying with my initial investment. So that the point of the stream was to kind of highlight applying economic principles to your life, and so I'm glad you came on because we started talking about. So yeah, the Dave Ramsey model fits with the Bible when it comes to being a good steward of your money. And for the majority of people, that is the case. Because they don't. A lot of people cannot do what I do. A lot of people have families. They've got wives and kids, and they have obligations. So if they end up spending more money and on a because I've done this. This is like I was talking to S-Man. This is why I was on the street, because I overspent on what I thought was a good investment, ended up blowing up in my face, and I had no money left over. I had no safety net. But I'm willing to take those kinds of risks because, if I fail, I'm the only person who suffers. If I had a family, if I had dependents, if I had all the rest, there is no way I would have been able to risk what I risked for my business. There's no way I would have dropped $20,000 on a dream for what could be. I would save that for my kids' future. I would save that for rainy day fund. There's no way I could have bought my software or hired my team to build part of my software. There's no way I could do that. There's no way I could have invested $3,000 into this network and the program I have that's helping me run my online business. Because I would have been like, oh no, my family needs it more than I do. So the Dave Ramsey model is based on that, and that is the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans have family, have dependents, they've got obligations. The other side of that is a lot of people don't know what is worth taking the risk on. This is evident by how many people play the lottery. How many people play the lottery day after day, week after week, paycheck, spending all their extra money. If they took that and invested it into something more worthwhile, but they don't.
They would actually get some money out of it.
Yeah, people, the average Joe who's not doesn't have that entrepreneurial mindset, doesn't have that I'm looking for any opportunity, doesn't matter what it is, I'm looking for whatever I can get my hands on. That's a unique type of person. And that's what Think and Grow Rich talks about a lot, is the mindset of these people before they made it big. These are people, so I'll give one example and then I do have to go. I'm already way longer than I expected. So there's one example in Think and Grow Rich where it's talking about, I forget the name of this guy, but this was during the gold rush. And he had bought a gold mine where somebody had previously struck gold. And the way gold works is if you find a main or a stream of gold, there is going to be more gold in that mine. But the guy who had originally mined it out, he'd made his fortune, and he couldn't afford to keep the mine and keep going because he's made his money. It's not worth his effort to keep mining that. He's got other things to do. So he sold it to this miner who's like, okay, I bought this on the cheap. I've got got my tools. I've got whatever. And so then he starts mining in this mine, trying to find the next gold vein, right? Trying to, So there's a stream of gold, and it's kind of almost like a river that flows through the rocks. You've seen Minecraft and sort of things like that, right? It's in nature. In nature, that mimics nature because it's in the rocks and it's kind of like a stream, and it'll follow, and sometimes it'll go up and it'll course around, and it's a lot like a river flowing through rocks. I'm not quite sure exactly why that is, but that's the way it kind of is. And then there'll be gaps, and you're like, okay, well, it's going this way, and then I mine here and nothing, and I mine there and nothing. You mine all around and there's nothing, and then you go a little, like, it may be 50 feet away in a completely different direction or whatever, and you start mining again, and you hit the rest of the stream, and then it keeps going. So that's what this guy was hoping to find. And so he spent all this money. He hit a little bit of gold, so he made he didn't make his money back on this, but he kept doing, and he's just pounding away, trying to find the next. Anyway, he exhausted all of his funds. So he'd bought this abandoned mine. He knew it had hit gold before. He's trying to get gold, and he stopped. And he said, I can't afford this mine anymore. He sells it to the next guy and goes back to New York, gives up on his dream. The next guy hired a crew to appraise the mine and to see if they can figure out where the gold went, because he knew there was gold in the mine. The previous guy knew there was gold in there. He knew that there was more gold to be found. he couldn't get to it. So so this is the third owner of this particular mine comes along. He hires a crew to analyze the mine and try to give an idea of where the gold should be. So they gave him, they gave him what they thought based on what they know about mines and based on the way gold works. And so then he sets to work mining 5 feet. 5 feet into his mining after doing this, he strikes gold. He's a millionaire. He is one of the guys being interviewed in the book Think and Grow Rich. The first guy, the guy who gave up, had to give up because he couldn't find the gold, he became a millionaire. So, and this is gold rush era. So millionaire, this is not, there's lots of millionaires in the United States. This is when millionaires was the equivalent of billionaires. Guy hits a huge gold mine, is mining it all by himself. Overnight millionaire. Well, maybe not overnight millionaire, but pretty much a millionaire as soon as he chipped away and found the gold in that mine. The original, or not the original owner, but the guy who was in between, right? The guy who had bought it when it was abandoned and then sold it to this other guy because he ran out of resources. He goes back to New York, and he's found out that, that mine that I sold, the guy right after me hit it 5 feet away from where I left off. If I had kept mining for 5 more feet, I could be done working, and I'd make my... He begins selling insurance, and he starts using that story. And he becomes so successful that he becomes a millionaire. Selling insurance in New York City. And there's a principle that goes throughout the book, Think and Grow Rich. And the principle is true for every famous name you've ever heard of. Dale Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, not Dale Carnegie, sorry, it was Andrew Carnegie, right? Dale Carnegie is the guy who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. So Andrew Carnegie is a steel guy, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. So those aren't in the book, but sorry, the principle still applies to them. Those guys aren't in the book. The book Think and Grow Rich was actually written, the 60s, 40s, something? I don't know. It's rather old because these are all the robber barons. But any wealthy person that you can think of, they all have this thing involved, and it's true for even our modern millionaires. Well, Jobs is dead, but even Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki talks about these principles a lot in his Rich Dad Poor Dad series. The principles are the same throughout all of this sort of thing. And Rich Dad Poor Dad is not so much based on... So the Think and Grow Rich is analyzing all of these really wealthy people from the past and trying to figure out what they did. Oh, yeah, Kodak. There's stories about Kodak. There's all of these name brands that you recognize that are somebody's last name, and these empires that built up overnight. They all had this in common, is every single one of them had at least 2 major opportunities. 2 opportunities that had they passed up on the first one, they would, had they, well, a lot of them said, had I followed through on my first one, I could have been a millionaire. Opportunity 2 came along, that's why I acted, and I became a millionaire. I became an overnight success. It's kind of a misnomer, right? Nobody's an overnight success. Nobody is an overnight success. All those people, all the rock stars, there's this really good quote, and Stefan Monley was saying this over the weekend. An overnight success, 30 years in the making. That is reality. Nobody wants to put in the 30 years without payback. Nobody wants to put in the time and effort to become the success. Now, some people, it doesn't take 30 years to get there, but some people, it's 5 years of working dedication, and then they hit it big, and then another 5 years, and then they hit it bigger, and so... But a lot of these people that you see blow up and become like a Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
Zuckerberg was working day and night on Facebook, and he was doing all these things. And then social network, it's mostly dramatized, and there's a lot of stuff that is different from the actual events, but it's because they want to make an amazing movie or anyway. But Facebook didn't make a... Facebook was losing money hand over fist for the first 5 years it was in existence. And you're talking about spending 60, 80-hour weeks working on this platform, trying to make it something useful, trying to get enough... It was losing money hand over fist from the day it was created and launched. But once that flipped, he became a billionaire. Once it stopped losing money, once it stopped hemorrhaging, and people start to see what they could do with it, and people started advertising, now they make billions a day. Forget billionaire, one person being a billionaire. That company makes billions of dollars a day. Amazon, same things. So all of these principles is like, in your life, you're going to have at least 2 opportunities to find your fortune. You can't be guaranteed more than 2. Because, that you're going to get at least 2. I don't know if that is absolutely true, if that's a universal truth, but there are so many examples of this that if it's not true, we've got so much evidence to back that up. There's 2 opportunities. It's insane. Because so people like the Rockefellers and all that sort of thing, yeah, they made their fortune in oil, but you know what? There's other opportunities that they could have invested in that they passed up, that somebody else invested in and became a millionaire. And we had the money, we could have branched off and been twice as rich, but no, we passed up that opportunity. There's Think and Grow Rich has countless examples of this in action, of people talking about, yeah, I met this guy and he was a millionaire and I could have sold to him, I could have built a business relationship, that could have been my opportunity, and I screwed it up, and I did the wrong things, I wasn't prepared for it, and it passed me by. And so there's so many opportunities like that, and they're like, yeah, that could have been it, and I let it go, and it... Roy Crocker, if you've seen any... if you're at all interested in starting your own business or anything like that, I highly recommend... They made a film about it. What was the name of it? The Founder, with Birdman, Michael Keaton. He's playing Roy Crocker, and it is... He is not a good person. He is kind of a slimy bastard, but... so the first 20 minutes or 20, 30 minutes of the film, I'm just like, oh, that's the moment. That's when he sees the aha, this is my opportunity. I can't let this go. I can't pass this up. But then towards the end, he starts being a slimeball creep and completely completely swindles the McDonald's brothers. Anyway, but it's still an amazing film, and thank you for joining me. But this is something I hold true, and this is something that's been true for everybody who's ever been rich, and everybody gets 2 opportunities. The problem is, most people aren't prepared when they see the first one. Most people are not in a position to take advantage of it. They see, oh, that's an opportunity, that's a great thing to invest in, and I don't have the money right now. I can't do it. So that's why luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Everybody's going to get those 2 opportunities, and if you're not prepared for it, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be working as hard as you can to make sure you're prepared for when one of those opportunities comes by and you hit rich and you find your fortune. Second thing, Think and Grow Rich, throughout the entire book, every single one of these people that is considered a detriment to humanity, a despot, terrible, oh, they robbed all these people, every single one of them thanked God and gave back. There are libraries dedicated to these men's name. There are charities that are started by these guys. Once they made their money and they had more than enough, every single one of them in Think and Grow Rich started doing things for other people. Yes, they built their businesses, they kept that going, but they took their stuff and they started helping other people. They started helping other people find their fortune. And that's, Think and Grow Rich is amazing because these people are talking about it and they're like, yes, this is the kind of information I wish everybody in America knew. Because if they knew that, they could join me. I don't want to be the only one up here at the top. Everybody in America should be this. I mean, it's a common theme throughout the book. And yeah, I've been ranting for way too long. And like I said, I do have to go.
All right,
But
see ya. See you next time, dude. If
yeah,
there's-
so I'm gonna wrap this up. So I think I don't know if this is my one opportunity to get rich, but this is the opportunity to start my business. And Fun Fair and Fair Market, that might just be one of these opportunity that. And then from there, once I make my fortune doing that, I very much intend to go down to Africa and start providing them with this clean drinking water. That is goal number 2. So. You know, like once I'm settled, once I've got my business, once I don't have to worry about money ever again, then I'm going to spend the rest of my life in Africa talking to those people and getting them clean drinking water so they don't have to deal with malaria and dysentery and all this stuff that is killing them by the millions.
All right, see ya, dude.
Yep,
I
see ya.
enjoyed having you. I mean, not that you had me, but
Yeah,
I really.
yeah. Well, thank you for joining. Give me somebody to slightly. I'm sorry that I was doing most of the talking, but you.
Oh yeah, it's your stream, so you should do most of the talking. I just really like listening. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
See ya.
but you triggered some ideas, so I'm glad you joined. All right. So thanks to everybody else who's joined. I do have to go. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, whoops! I'm still streaming.